Thank you all very much. Barry and I flipped a coin, see who was next. I lost. No, you know what? I'm fired up too, and I think we all are. And it's great to hear those words from the Secretary. And what we need to do is understand it's our role to make sure that we're supporting what he wants to do, and that's to take care of our veterans, putting our veterans first. So first, good morning, everyone. It's such an honor to be here with you. I'd like to thank everyone for taking your time to join your fellow disabled veterans and supporters at this critical event. It's highlighted by camaraderie and learning. But make no mistake of the primary mission, advocating for our nation's veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. This Midwinter Conference is a premier veterans advocacy event in Washington. Why? What creates the magic? We know that it provides DAV members with an opportunity to meet face-to-face with our elected officials. It helps build stronger relationships with decision makers and, of course, with one another. But you, each of you represent what it is to sacrifice in service. And you've earned a place of honor and respect in one of hundreds of local communities that you represent. You're truly what makes this event here special. Your presence in those heralded offices across the river as you meet with elected officials and their staff members over the next few days puts a human face on everything that we do and everything that we need done. You are the vessel containing critical knowledge about the most critical and pressing issues affecting our veteran community. And your voice, in unison with other DAV members, needs to be a force that our lawmakers won't forget. So I'm fired up. Yeah, you're right. We need to be. For some of you, this may be your first time advocating on Capitol Hill. Thank you. You'll get it. You'll understand the importance of it. But for many others, I know this is not your first rodeo, and you know how important it is to be here. Whether you're a first-time attendee or seasoned midwinter advocate, check out the workshops led by our professional staff. All the presentations are geared to help you become a more effective advocate and member leader at DAV. So listen, take notes, and ask questions. This grassroots approach is developing our member leaders, creates a powerful and unified voice. It helps our organization build public support, educate lawmakers, and hold them accountable in keeping its promise to Americans' veterans and their families. So one of the primary objectives here this week is to remind our elected officials that the solemn obligation they have in keeping the promise to America's ill and injured veterans and their families. So with the new administration, a new Congress, we start fresh, new goals, and embrace opportunities that create a better future for our veterans, their families, caregivers, and survivors. So with over a century of service, we have secured many legislative victories for veterans and their families, and we should take pride in what we have achieved, but also remain vigilant and continue to advance our causes. After nearly 2 years of advocacy by DAV, the Elizabeth Dole Home Care Act, which benefits caregivers and all veterans, was passed. Among its many, yes, absolutely. Let's talk about that legislation and how it's impacted veterans. It aims to streamline the disability claims process. It expands access to job training and employment opportunities, addresses veteran homelessness, strengthens mental health services, and it eases the burden for aging and disabled veterans to receive at-home care. This was another tremendous victory for veterans and their families, but there's still more work to be done. We're building off the successes of two most recent reports, Women Veterans, The Journey to Mental Wellness, and Ending the Wait for Toxic Exposed Veterans. We're pushing to have an even greater impact on the lives of women veterans and veterans exposed to toxins during their military service. In The Journey to Mental Wellness, we describe the unique factors that contribute to the alarming rate of suicide among women, veterans, and providers. It provided over 50 policy and legislative recommendations intended to spark a necessity and an urgent change that can save lives. With ending the wait, we showed that on average, veterans have to wait 34 years post-exposure to receive access to a full range of health care benefits that they urgently need. In the report, we provided a blueprint to dramatically reform the process and the government handling of service-related toxic exposures. The time to act is now. Our veterans have waited a long time and waited long enough. And their health and well-being depend on our collective commitment to implementing the changes that we have recommended in these reports. DAV's other legislative priorities include eliminating gaps in mental health care and suicide prevention efforts, preventing, taxing, offsetting, or reducing veterans' benefits. Wouldn't you agree? That is so important. Modernizing survivor benefits, making dental care a health benefit for all service-disabled veterans, improving caregiver support and providing more long-term care options for service-disabled veterans, and establishing new funding mechanisms for VA infrastructure to sustain the VA's role as a primary provider and coordinator of veterans' health care. As I stand here in front of you, I reflect fondly on advocating for veterans and remember my first midwinter conference 21 years ago. I got to witness DAV National Commander Alan Bowers, an Air Force pilot who severely injured his spine when he ejected from an OV-10 over Vietnam. He testified before the very committees I will present before later this week. That experience for me was life-changing. I learned how DAV was and is a power broker for veterans. I learned how truly important this work that we do here is meaningful legislation. It's victories for our veterans in most cases. From that moment, I knew the path I was on was a righteous one, and I know that everyone in this, see, I'm getting preachy too. And I know everyone in this room feels the same way, don't you? Yeah. Absolutely. I think that was appropriate to say amen at that point, right? So the ability to advocate for the veteran community has been a blessing, and it's an honor and a privilege to serve in this esteemed role and continue the legacy of service to our veteran community. Thank you all for being active members in our legislative advocacy. We must continue to demonstrate our strength in numbers so our elected officials understand our priorities and needs. Remember, your story is your superpower. Please share your experiences with your representatives this week. Your stories help foster the connection, provide insight to complex issues, and demonstrate the need for solutions. But most of all, they remind our elected officials that behind every policy and statistic, there are real people with real stories and experiences that matter. And I hope all of you never, ever forget that. The camaraderie we share empowers our advocacy, a force nearly as strong as the bonds forged in military service. We have a profound responsibility to be the voice for service-disabled veterans of all eras. They depend on our commitment to our cause, and I have no doubt that each of you will continue to answer that call. Thank you all for being here to ensure that none of your brothers or sisters are left behind. The future is not without its challenges, but together, we will continue to accomplish amazing things for veterans and their families. God bless all of you. God bless the DAV. Thank you very much.